Topic 3. Favorite people in games media.
Colin Moriarty.
Moriarty.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. I've heard some good things.
Sometimes you stutter my name. I was watching Kind of Funny Live the other day.
Yeah.
Just the certain part, and you like announced me during the press conference. You just totally didn't say my name right, and I'm like, how long have we known each other? But then I was thinking, like, you said it. You say it right probably 99% of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for calling me a moron. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Moriarty. Yeah. Colin's a good dude. So here's the thing. The reason I bring up this topic is there's been a lot of hate recently. A lot of people upset about stuff because of the internet, and that's how things work.
The internet works, yeah.
But I don't like that because I feel like there's a lot of good on the internet. We should talk about that more. We've always talked about this. We have a good community. We have people that enjoy positivity and all that stuff.
Indeed.
But I feel like there's a lot of other people out there that maybe don't get enough love. Maybe some of them do get enough love, but I want to give them a little bit more love.
Okay.
Because when it comes down to it, we are public figures in the video game space. You guys are the coolest dudes in video games.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
You've heard
No
about
doubt
that.
about it.
So that means there's a lot of people that kind of look to you guys for your opinions and all that stuff, right? But at the same time, we look to other people for their opinions because we're fans of games just like everyone else is. So we read articles on these different websites. We watch YouTube videos. We watch all this the content that people make. Who are some of your favorites that you go to?
Justin McElroy.
From
like
where?
him on Polygon.
Mhm.
Is that what you want his old bio?
Yeah.
West Virginia as well. Has a baby, I believe, now.
Okay.
These kids, they all started having
Yeah.
babies. It's impossible to keep up with. Lovely on Twitter.
Mhm.
I enjoy Twitter interactions already. He's very good at the Twitter interaction. Twitter, here's what I think of this game in a nutshell. He's one of the first people, I believe, that turned me on to Gone Home back in the day. When the Batman review embargo lifted, he was on there answering people's questions to the best of his abilities without any spoilers and stuff. I was really appreciative of that. Again, not ruining them, but there. Ray, former achievement hunter over on Twitch. I like everything he's doing is super fascinating now. Jeff Gersman. Giant Bomb, of course. San Francisco here. A Bay Area person. I'm sorry, I'll give you more of these bios. No kids, I believe.
Oh, no kids. Okay.
No kids.
You believe?
I believe.
I believe he believes that
Him
too.
and Brad Shoemaker look. There might be something going on there.
Yeah.
A little father-son
You think
stuff.
Brad is his kid?
Yeah, from the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Those are people I jump to when you say, like, who do I respect? Who do I think about on that level? Who do I want to hear about hear from, I guess, when games come out? That's my list.
What are you calling?
I think that in terms of raw writing ability, I think actually Vincent Gennito at IGN is one of the most underrated, if not the most significantly underrated writer in the entire industry. In terms of media, I think that as someone who edited a lot of his work, I wouldn't walk around and openly admit to people, I'm like, you're way better than I am. But he was one of the people, and he was like, I was many bars ahead of him on the chain, the chain of command at IGN. I'd be like, I wish that I could write like you, I write differently. I have my own voice, and I think I'm a good writer. But he has command of language and says things in his reviews in criticism that I was like, I wish I thought to say something like this. So I think that in terms of just underrated people that I don't think get enough credit, I think he's one of those people. But he's always in the trenches, like you just don't see him. And so I think that's part of the reason why he's kind of under the radar for a lot of people. From there, I'd go to the old standbys. I think Jason Schreier and Patrick Klepek at Kotaku are probably the best journalists in the industry. They're real journalists and they break real stories, and I respect what they do. They also have opinions, which I think is good. But Jason, especially, I don't know, understand. I really do feel like Schreier breaks like 75% of the news in the industry of like any consequence that doesn't come straight from a publisher or a press release. Matt Leone is a guy at Polygon now who I've never spoken a word to in my entire life and have never met, but is one of the only other people, really the only other person at a big outlet other than me that wrote long-form articles, and I liked a lot of what he was doing. He was given a lot of room to do that kind of stuff, and I think that that's great. Even though it doesn't probably pay the bills, it's cool to have what they call prestige pieces for your website like that, which is what I think History of Naughty Dog, when I wrote that, and History of Insomniac and all that kind of stuff were for me. So I kind of go in that direction, and then I want to give my final shout out. And this was the most recent edition. And this only happened in the last 6 months or so. I just didn't read GameSpot that much or look at the site. I just wasn't really interested in it, and until this year when I started kind of just reading more and getting around. And what I realized was that GameSpot had their very own Greg and Colin that I didn't know about, Danny and Chris, Danny O'Dwyer and Chris Waters. They're really great. And Danny O'Dwyer especially is like very impressive to me. I think he's he's got a solid foundation of facts and a basis for knowing games, and he's a gamer and he plays games. But I'm impressed with the way he is on camera. I'm impressed with his verbiage. I'm impressed with his ability to get in and out of segments and kind of lead the conversation and direct the conversation. So I want to give a shout out to those two because they reminded me a great deal of the way Greg and I interact with each other. And I didn't know that they existed really until I opened my mind enough to. Or really even have time to not be in our own trench where I'm like, there are other trenches and let's see what's going on in the other places. And I'm like, these guys are great. If I hadn't known that they had existed, at that level, I would have been watching them for a long time.
Danny O'Dwyer, Irish, no kids.
Got it.
At least one cat.
Okay. Cats are good. I got to give a shout out to my boy, Dan Reichert.
Oh, Dan, yeah.
So but prior to Kind of Funny and like doing this whole thing, I didn't know him. Didn't know of him and all that stuff. I'm very much a YouTube guy. Like you guys are games journalists and all that stuff, and you're so in those trenches. I'm so in the YouTube video trenches, and like that's just my group, and that's the type of people that I am more drawn to because I'm looking more for the entertainment instead of the critical analysis and all that stuff, right? But I have a soft spot for that too, for sure. And that's why people like Colin are some of my favorites to read and stuff because it's like you have real opinion based on facts. You know what I mean? It's like this nice amalgamation of all the good things that need to happen in order for something to have,
Thank you.
Value instead of just entertainment. Not to say entertainment is not valuable because it obviously is and it's all we do.
Yeah.
But Dan Reichert was one of those dudes that because of this I met and I was like, man, I like the way you do things. And I think that is like the best compliment I can give someone is just being like, everything you're doing, keep doing it because it makes me happy and you're doing a good job. I like his opinions on things, even if I don't agree with them. And I like just whenever following him on Twitter. And I think Twitter is a big thing. Twitter changed the game when it came to all these personalities and stuff because whether you're watching YouTube videos or reading articles, getting people's real, 140 characters of just what their thoughts are at the time, and it's they do not reflect the views of my employer or all that stuff. You're just getting them.
Yeah,
I love that, and you really get to see another side. Dan's a good dude, and I really really support him. Obviously, Rooster Teeth, pretty much everyone there for one reason or another. I'm a huge fan of Ashley Jenkins, who was at IGN with us. I always enjoyed her and we were always friends and stuff, but she was in such a position at IGN where she was the social head or whatever. So she didn't really get to give her opinion about games or do that stuff. And now that she's over at Rooster Teeth, she kind of heads up the Know, which is their more information based stuff. And what she's doing with the patch with her and Bernie and Gus and whoever else is on the show week to week.
Yeah.
When one of the three is busy, it's I love it, man. They do something that I find pretty unique in the sense of the games that they cover. What we do is we cover the games that we like, but we also talk about the general news and all that stuff. They cover the games they like, but it's just very different than us because it's way more Steam focused and it's way more early access. And it's fascinating to me to talk to them or to hear their shows because their shows are so radically different than our shows. And it shocks me how little I know about that side of video games when we know so much about this side.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy that there's this whole other world that really is kind of the future of how things are when it comes to just playing on demand and playing whatever you want, whenever you want and stuff. And we're just so used to the indie titles coming to our consoles, but they've been there for years, And so hearing from them, I really like that. And Philip DeFranco has always been one of those dudes where he sums up his opinion really well. And that's kind of always been what he did.
Yeah.
Is just gives opinions on things. It's not critical reviews. It's not whatever. It's I liked it. I didn't like it. Whatever. Here's why. And my one thing that I really liked about it, or one thing I really didn't like about it. So I always enjoyed following his opinions about games and stuff. And then in terms of people that we have worked with, IGN has a whole bunch of people that are awesome. But again, Jared Petty, that motherfucker knows what he's talking about. And it's he simultaneously makes things that are interesting to me not interesting because he gets so in depth and so detailed, but then somehow comes out the other end of it's so interesting to me because it's he really kind of taught me something.
Sure.
Every single thing I read from him or watch from him or any of that. So shout out to him.
You should watch I don't know if you've seen it yet, World 1-1, which is a documentary him and I are both in because he's really the star of that documentary. They use me for a few minutes and I narrate it, but they as a talking head, but he's very impressive. His range of knowledge is. Jared's one of those guys that, and I don't mean it that I know everything or whatever, but I'm confident in what I know and I know games. And I'm comfortable engaging in conversation and teaching people things or having a debate or admitting when I'm wrong or whatever. Jared is one of those guys that authentically can teach me something. And so I like to listen to him talk. And I was thinking about kind of who I look at as the patriarch kind of games journalism or games media, who I think is Jeremy Parish. Jeremy Parish is at US Gamer now. He used to be at 1UP. He is just... Jeremy Parish knows so much about games that I dare not even talk about them in front of him. I'll never forget him just taking the time one time I was in Japan to just bring me around and we hung out for a little while and I was just talking to him when we were picking games off the shelves and he was teaching me shit and he is just an absurd font of knowledge about video games and he knows how to talk about them too so that like he can express it and he does so much. Like I don't like people that follow him like he's like the head of US Gamer but like I don't even read that site. Like he does like blogs and podcasts on like fucking everything. He's also the person that coined Metroidvania. But which is like the coolest thing ever. I can't believe he coined that. But like he does like he'll just like do blog posts like here's what I think about this Game Boy game from 1991 like a fucking he publishes books like actual books about like the DNA, the genetics of games, like goes through screen by screen through like Mega Man or Castlevania or Zelda or something like that. I'm like, this is insane. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how the fuck he does it. I don't know how he plays the games he does and then has the time to think about the games and then has time to like publish books about them and write about them and do podcasts about them. I have a tremendous amount of respect and appreciation for Jeremy Parish. I think he's probably the most knowledgeable person in the entire games industry. And for as much as I know about games, and I think I know a lot about games, he knows way more than I do and will always know way more than I do. He's a great writer too.
You bringing him up reminds me of Ego Raptor. Like I gotta give him a shout out because he doesn't do it too much, but like his Sequelitis series where he kind of like really gets deep into a game and like why he likes it and why it's a good game. Oh man, it's like I wish there was just more content like that out there.
Sure.
Like there's been a lot of other YouTubers that have tried to do it, and I feel like it always comes off as disingenuous and very just kind of forced and like trying to pick things apart that aren't there. Like you're trying to give, reason to things. It's like, oh well, if you notice this and this leads to this, it's like no, you're just kind of looking. You're stretching to tell a story. But he cares about games, and you can genuinely tell that, and I love that. I also want to give a shout out to Lucy James at GameSpot because her video content, like she produces, writes, and hosts the content she's in, which I'm familiar with because at IGN that's what I did, and like that's it's a niche that more and more people are doing, but I think it's still a relatively unutilized thing when it comes to the GameSpots and the IGNs and stuff like that, because there is such a structure of you're a writer, you're a video guy, you work together to make a product, but these kind of hybrid roles that do all of it, she's killing it. Like her show in 2 minutes, I love it. Like it's the type of content I'm like, I want to make this, and that's a good sign.
I like Boogie. We didn't talk about Boogie from YouTube, right? Like he does a great job of entertainment in terms of when he does a Francis video, and then he'll turn on the same thing and do a Boogie video telling you why this is bullshit, that this is the way it is, or why this isn't working, or his thoughts on a game, which I think is invaluable, right? Like he commands an audience that he can then talk to on 2 different levels, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. Also, I don't know if it counts, but I'd say the Fine Brothers, whenever they do they react to a Game Boy or an old game or something like that, I think that's always awesome stuff that I actually sit down and watch and enjoy and wait for.
Yeah, they make great content just in general.
Yeah.
I also want to give a shout out to Kyle Bossman at Game Trailers. Game Trailers in general, like I haven't gotten too deep into it yet, but they have the layoffs and that whole issue. They've like essentially relaunched, and there's a YouTube channel. They have a whole new slate of programming. And from the little I've seen and kind of like dabbling, it's really quality stuff. And there's an energy to their new cast of people. And I don't know how long they've been there, so I might be wrong in saying new, but it feels new and it feels fresh and it feels like a solid team working together. It reminds me of us in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But what I really like about Kyle is that he kind of reminds me of the Greg Miller of my generation, age-wise.
Sure.
You talk about when you talk about Metal Gear and like where you were when it happened and all this stuff and like your Sega stories and all that, like there's this passion and energy that kind of flows through every single time you talk about any video game, like news story, anything. It's like I get it. I feel that way about Kyle, this genuine like excitement and stuff, but it's about Pokemon and like Yoshi and like the things that I care about, Kingdom Hearts and stuff like that. So it's like it's refreshing to me, and it's really interesting because I think he is one of the first people to kind of do that for people that grew up where 1998 was their favorite year in games. You know.
Yeah. I only watched one of his videos once, and it was the one where he talked shit about us.
Whatever.
So
I
don't
mean,
know.
but that's the thing though. It's like people are gonna, he did talk shit, but it's like
About us?
Yeah.
What did he say?
It was something like kind of funny, not really, or some shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
It was
I mean-
fucking forever ago.
yeah, that
So
like,
many other people have talked bigger shit than that.
Yeah, exactly. And like I remember he did that like after we'd been officially covering games content for like 2 weeks maybe, you know? And like to be fair, it's like whatever. Like everything we do is not the best sometimes. Like criticism's criticism, you know, and when your job is to be funny on the internet and like you're talking about other people, we've talked shit about a lot of people too.
Have
that
we?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Okay. Yeah, okay, good.
That was a joke.
What I'm saying is like sometimes talking shit, if you talk shit, you get shot.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's different levels of shit that you kind of gotta like be like, all right, like I guarantee you that if we talked to him and whatever, we'd be friends.
I'm
And
sure
like,
it was a play on kind of funny. I'm just yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I also, I to that point, like, I don't think we do talk shit about individuals. I think we talk shit about, you know, I certainly talk a lot of shit about some publishers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's just me being honest. So I appreciate the honesty. I don't try to get it to a personal level with anyone. I mean, I just had a huge rant about Sega and how bad they are.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like it's not really any different.
Yeah.
You know, so I respect that. If you know, you said like not everything we're gonna do is the best. I would take it a step further. I don't think like much of anything we do is the best. That's not like what we're trying to be. You know what I mean? Like we're not like I'm not even trying to be facetious. It's like we're not trying to be like a fucking Nobel laureate fucking games channel. You know, like.
But what if we were?
We're just we're not the best. We're honest and we're ourselves, and that's what makes kind of funny, which is I think why people like us because we don't have a pretension about us at all, you know, except for Greg's ego, of course.
Yeah. Of course.
But you know, so I think that is why we're fun. So yeah, like Kevin was laughing. I'm not even trying to be facetious. Nothing we do is the best. We just we are who we are.
Yeah.
And I think that's fun.
I think if I remember correctly, that the quote unquote shit he was talking about us is because it was a time when a bunch of different groups were splitting up. Jim Sterling like went off, which also Jim Sterling I think deserves a shout out.
Oh yeah, Jim. Yeah, what a fucking huge omission. Yeah, Jim Sterling, of course.
Jim fucking Sterling's son.
Oh my God, Jim Sterling. Real quick before you get into that,
go.
What an incredible omission. Jim Sterling is my hero. You know, like I talk to Jim all the time, and you know we talk you know privately, and he is a fucking boss. You know what I mean? Like Jim Sterling is a boss. And that interview he did with those developers that hated him on Steam last week, I don't know if you saw that, was like the fucking funniest thing I'd ever heard. I told you like it's an hour and 40 minutes of the developer that fucking hates him talking to him about his games and like how he talked all this shit, and Jim just like very calm and just batting down things and stuff. I respect his mind. I respect his ability to not give a fuck.
Yeah.
Because you need, and I feel, and we've said it to each other, and I feel like it's true. He and I are very much cut from the same cloth, just the opposite ends of that cloth. You know, like I don't care either. I'm not out to like make friends and make publishers like me and all that kind of stuff. I'm here to tell you what I think, and I think that Jim is just like that. Jim's making like $11,000 a month on Patreon, doing whatever he wants, and he's got a fervent fucking audience, and I love Jim Sterling. Reason I'm most excited to go to Screw Attack is to see him. Because I haven't seen him in 3 years because he doesn't travel, you know. And he and I are going to collaborate and we're going to have a good time together. I want to just interview him actually. Not even that's it. So
You bring up SGC, which reminds me, Pro Jared's going to be there, and I hope to meet him because Pro Jared is one of the dudes that I love his content so much.
He's real nice.
I loved him when he was at Screw Attack, and like I loved him when he left Screw Attack, and I hope that we can collaborate with him someday because he's fucking legit. But going back to it with Kyle, I think the what he was saying was he was using kind of funny as the example of the sellouts. That we left to be independent and then we sold out because like with our Patreon and all that stuff. And I think that's just it's an education thing of not knowing how these new worlds of crowdsourced things and all this stuff works.
and also not knowing what the term sellout means.
But that too. But then, but like, what I'm saying is, it's just like with so much integrations and so much stuff like that. But it's like that's not understanding our audience and how much our audience understands what we're doing and gets that. Like when we get sponsored for stuff, it's a big deal to us, and it's not like we're selling out and like trying to. We're not gonna. We try to get integrations that are actually good for people. You know what I mean? And or things that our audience actually cares about and all that stuff. And it's like once you realize all that, then it kind of.
Yeah, no, I don't know him at all, so I don't. You know, I wish him the very best. I'd forgotten that that happened. But leaving and starting a Patreon is just to be clear, is the antithesis of selling out. Just wanted to just throw that out there.
Yeah.
Since words have meaning and all that.
Is there anyone else that we're leaving out? I feel like there might be.
Probably.
Let's think about it.
Jim Starling was the only one I was thinking.
Okay. Good. All right. So before we move on to the next topic, we are going to have an integration for something that I think is cool. The Star Wars Card Trader. It's the official Star Wars digital trading card app, available now exclusively on the App Store and Google Play. Open, trade, and collect cards entirely online. Your favorite characters, vehicles, and locations from the Star Wars universe can be traded and collected anywhere at any time. Download today, and for a limited time only, get 5 or more free packs per day. Get the first cards from Star Wars The Force Awakens and vintage-inspired 1977 Star Wars designs. Collect from 30 years of officially licensed Star Wars trading cards from the vintage era through to today, with new cards being released every day. All your favorite moments, locations, and characters. Download Star Wars Card Trader today at tops.com/kindafunny. That's TOPPS.com/kindafunny. And we can confirm there is a
There's
Watto.
a Watto card.
There
I
is
was
a
going to say,
Watto
I was going
card.
to tag that on
So
there
you
if
should
you
get the
missed
Watto
it. There is a
card.
Watto card every
Should have
day.
done like
Make all your friends trust.
we can confirm that there's
Breaking
a Watto
news from the desk.
Yes. All right. We're moving into the last topic.
I gotta go.
Okay, Colin needs to leave.
Sorry,
He has
I
a
have dinner plans.
Very important dinner meeting. I'm going to
It's
call
not
it a dinner
important at
meeting.
all, but it's with a good
very
friend.
important.
It's with a good friend, and I don't want to cancel it or just move it around. So thank you for your
It's
patience.
been a
and
pleasure having you here,
It's
Colin.
been good to see you guys as usual.
Always a pleasure.
Good day to you.
Yes.
Top of the muffin to you.
All right, Greg. It's
Yeah.
me and you. We're going to roll this motherfucker out.
First question.
From
Tell me
Dallas.
about Final Fantasy. Oh, jeez.
No, it's not. All right.